Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us for the live stream here. My name is Yichao, I'm the WPN Community Manager, and with me here today is Chris Tulak, the In-Store Play Program Specialist on the brand team. And we're going to be talking with you guys a little bit about the various events that we offer. What we'd like to do is kind of give you guys a basic rundown of how the events work and what things you guys get with the events, so you guys have that as a reference point here in one video. But also, more importantly, we'd love to hear what's working about these events for you, what you find exciting about these events, and what you think really helps make them work and bring players into your store, and what ways they can improve. We'd love to hear what components you think we really should keep doing because it's working well, and if there's any new ideas or things that aren't working as well that we're trying to make happen, we'd love to hear your feedback on that. And the first event we want to talk about is one that just happened here with Eldritch Moon, which is Prerelease. Now, with the Prerelease, obviously this is the player's first chance to play with the new set. And the two formats that, or 2.53 formats that we encourage are Sealed Deck and Sealed Deck Two-Headed Giant. Right. So these are the two major formats that we want pre-releases to be run in. Chris, how many events can stores run over a pre-release weekend?
So if you're a core store, you can run up to 3 events during the weekend, and if you're an advanced or an advanced plus location, you can run up to 6.
Okay. And for the pre-release, you guys, the players get a pre-release kit with the foil promo card, the spin down life counter, the packs from the set. And you guys as stores also receive a kit for decorating your store with different kind of items in it. This last time was the oversized Emrakul poster, and you also receive, of course, prize support with that as well. So with pre-release, Chris, what are some of the things we like to see stores really trying to emphasize and kind of come away with?
Well, the big focus of the pre-release, of course, is on basically a fun event where you're celebrating the release of a new set, right? A new set is about to come out. You're really getting excited about, the cards, opening new cards for the very first time, right, and getting to play with them. So the focus is on just a fun, casual event, right, that it serves as the kickoff, really, of your store's, season with the set, right? And that's really where the emphasis of the pre-release is for. The pre-release is really a program that's designed for everyone, really, of all skill levels, from the newer Magic players that have just learned how to play Magic, all the way up to the hardcore tournament players. Because everybody's really kind of coming together on that weekend to just really experience the new cards for the first time.
Yeah, and we, of course, encourage you to do different things to appeal to both new players and experienced players, considering your prize support, and depending on your community, maybe capping the number of rounds so that the tournament doesn't go on for too long.
Right.
There's different strategies that you can use to make sure all of your players get a chance to play, but also not be too intimidated by the tournament structure of the event.
Right, and when you use the word tournament, actually, we really like to think of the pre-release as less of a tournament and more of an event. Right. Really, it's just about creating a structure so that you can organize it. But apart from that, really, the feel of it shouldn't feel like you would consider a regular Magic tournament, right? Winning and losing is not something that we really emphasize in any of our, communications on the pre-release or our message to our players, right? It's more about just going out there, having fun with the new cards.
Yeah, so with that, we'd love to hear from you guys, especially with Eldritch Moon having just gone by. What things really worked for you guys? What things really resonated for that pre-release? What were some tools that we gave you that was really useful? And if there's any ways that we can improve, or if there are any things with the pre-release program that you guys like to see kind of evolve. You guys can feel free to comment that here, throw that into the comments, and we'll definitely come back and make sure we capture some of those concerns and thoughts. Moving on, however, after pre-release, I wanted to talk a little bit about launch weekend, which was just this past weekend with Eldritch Moon. So with launch weekend, this is the weekend that the set is first available for purchase, obviously, right? And we want to encourage stores to leverage their FNM that weekend into their launch weekend events. And launch weekend is actually open to you guys for determining the formats. You can have any format and any number of events. With launch weekend, you also get the foil alternate art promos, and so you guys have the freedom and flexibility to craft events that best suit your store. And Chris, with launch weekend, what do we really want to see retailers kind of focus on?
So the focus on launch weekend, it's the first weekend the set goes on sale, and a lot of players obviously are picking up their product from you for the first time. A great way that you can kind of express that is by running drafts that weekend. We kind of really want to say that if you're going to run one event and you really don't know exactly what to run, draft is probably a good solid place to go, because the players are getting the first opportunity to really get their cards and draft with them on that weekend. So we find that draft events tend to perform very well on launch weekend. As you know, the standard environment is sort of still kind of shaking out, and players are getting their new cards. It's something you might want to think about. So drafting is a great place for you as a retailer to kind of get some people to get in, play an event, and actually, have to buy a few packs to participate. So
yeah. Also, we want to remind you at this point that currently we have a draft promotion running, which is if you're able to schedule 8 draft events between July 22nd and August 24th, so we're still got about a month left on the promotion, you can earn an oversized Liliana promo card. So we're really excited about this. We think this is a number that might be challenging for some stores, but that I think is attainable for a lot of our retailers, and we encourage you to go for it. The oversized card looks pretty great. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
In addition, also a lot of you guys ran the zombie sticker promotion with the Emrakul poster through Prerelease. This is actually an event we want to encourage you guys to continue on past the Prerelease event and maybe utilize this the past launch weekend and all the way leading up to game day. We want to give you guys some tools to encourage your players to come back and have an ongoing, exciting kind of additional event to the kind of in-store play that's happening.
Right, and you can use that Emrakul poster in a variety of ways, whatever you think is best for your store. Some interpretations of it, you could have your Friday Night Magic events, or things like you may have done on launch weekend, right, worth double stickers for people that win their games, right? You can do a special event where folks can earn additional stickers for doing certain things, like off of an achievement list. So think about interesting and creative ways that you can use the Emrakul poster and the zombie stickers as a way to really show off like the accomplishments of your in-store community.
Yeah, and we want to encourage you to be generous with those promo cards. We really want to get them into as many players' hands as possible, and it's a great way, again, to just attract players to come back and play all through launch weekend. We see from Rob that the sound on the stream is a little quiet. Sorry about that. We'll try to speak a little louder here. We're working through some technical things. But I wanted to move on and talk a little bit about game day. Now, game day happens after the Pro Tour, so players have the chance to see for the first time the Pro players and the kind of decks that they're building, and it's the first chance for players to play in this brand new standard and kind of bring those decks to play. And how many events can stores run for game day?
Well, stores can run one event if they're a core location, and if they're an advanced or advanced plus location, they can run 2 over the weekend. The game day events are run on Saturdays or Sundays, so there's not to really conflict too much with your Friday Night Magic.
Cool. With game day, of course, you receive the champion playmat as well as the full art promos. This time it's going to be Unsubstantiate and Heron's Grace Champion. 2 pretty cool cards. What are some of our goals we'd like to see with game day? So
game day's focus is sort of on expressing your players' skills more than the other events than launch weekend and pre-release are. With game day, what we're really it's sort of one of the bridge programs between sort of the player that's playing in a lot of casual and social games and a player that's interested in playing in things like our higher competitive stuff, like the Road to the Premier Play type things, like Grand Prix trials and preliminary Pro Tour qualifiers and such. So what game day serves is a great way to sort of say, here is an event that's meant for anyone that's interested in Standard to come out and play, and at the end of that event, you'll be focused on, kind of having the store's champion, right, expressed as, with this awesome playmat, right, that they get, and these cool promo cards. So really the focus is on the store's first real competitive event of the season. And we wanted to make sure that we have a really cool kit with awesome things for you to kind of really excite your other players with that information and get them out there and playing. So that's really like the big point of game day is that. And structurally, what you'll want to do with game day is, unlike the other programs, which are a little bit more loose as far as like, treating them like we said, event versus tournament. Here, the emphasis is more on the fact that it is a tournament, right? So yes, you want to have your Swiss round structure. Ideally, you want to do a cut to either top 4 or top 8 if you can afford that time, because ultimately what you want to do is you want to go ahead and say, hey, we have a real champion in our store, and you want that person to have gone through the rigors of many rounds of competition before they become that champion.
Of course, and correct me if I'm wrong, we do want to say that the decision to cut to top 4 or top 8 is ultimately based on the store.
It is, yeah. If you don't have time to do that and you need to run just Swiss, we totally understand. You have to, do what's best for your Magic community in your store. But if you can run a cut to top 4 or top 8, that's great, right? It just makes it makes the event have a little bit more pizzazz to it. Mm-hmm. So.
And again, I want to say, if you guys do have any questions about any of these events, or any suggestions and thoughts about how they can be improved, or what things can work better, or are working really well, we'd love to hear it in the comments. But also, I want to take this time too, because I know one question that I do hear quite frequently about game day is, why is it standard? Why can't we do any
Right.
format that we want, and things in that vein?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So the first reason is that game day is really meant to be, the focus is meant to be on one tournament event, and by having all of us, all the stores, go out and do an event in the same format, we know that we're all kind of, the weekend's focus is on that particular format. It's on standard, right? And we're using the Pro Tour, right, as sort of our benchmark to see what kind of decks really are possible at game day. And so the conversation naturally amongst your competitive players is going to focus more on, hey, the pros are playing these decks. These are the hot decks right now. Maybe there's a rogue deck that I can build that can beat one of these decks, or maybe I really want to try out one of these decks. And game day represents a really ideal time for your players to go out and attempt that and play in a standard tournament to see if they can actually pilot a Pro Tour deck or a Rogue deck or even just their own brew, to the top of the heap.
Yeah, and we want players to take inspiration from the Pro Tour. Again, it's the week right after that event. And leading up to game day, I've seen stores have success with streaming the Pro Tour in their store, giving access to their players of the Pro Tour, and letting that be kind of an inspiration point for this event, so that players are excited to test out the new things, given the kind of inspiration from what the pros are doing. And again, I really love, the one thing I really like about this event is that it does serve as that bridge, right? So it gives that more casual player the opportunity to really step up their deck building and try out give it a whirl in a more competitive environment that's still local and friendly to you guys in the community and the game store.
Right. Yeah. The big thing with the game day program is it's really meant to be sort of your bridge program, right? It's meant to be sort of the players that are into the social casual thing but are starting to get a little more serious. Maybe they're doing really well at some of your Friday Night Magics, right? That this is like where they can prove their mettle. Right, and so it's that bridge, that that first toe in the water of competitive play. Now, keep in mind, when I use the word competitive play here, I don't mean that the events are competitive REL. They don't need to have a certain judge at your event or anything like that. But they are, the feel of the event is, it's a little bit more about friendly competition than it is about just like, the pre-release where it's just opening new cards and hey, yay, we're all here, or a launch weekend where we're drafting for the first time. So think about that when you're looking at your game day and ways that you can express like the successes that players have. Not only the success of your top players, right, which they're kind of awarded by getting the top 8 promo cards and the playmat for the champion, but like also just the successes of maybe your first timers too, right, and players that are able to notch a win for their first time, right, in a match, that they've come to play in game day, or they brought a special, brew of their own and had some success with that. So find those opportunities to share those stories too with your other players so that they feel inspired to keep playing game day and bringing new and creative decks out to compete.
Awesome. Yeah. Alex just chimed in and he had the comment, Standard has been slow for over a year and has been hard to get people in for events like game day. It's also hard for players to get the cards for Standard in the 3 weeks after the set comes out. Implicit to this, I guess, is our question of what can we do to kind of address that? So, Chris, do you have any thoughts in this regard?
Well, I think one of the things is that, and we've been working on from our side, from Wizard's side, right, on working on making Standard is more and more accessible, right? So we're currently working on that. Alex, we really hear you, and one of the things we are working toward is making that Standard environment a more accessible environment, making a larger variety of decks available for players, right? Depending on what kind of decks they want to build, making sure that there's a lot of archetypes so that there's lots of different kinds of decks that fit sort of any kind of any kind of budget, really.
And one thing that's exciting about game day is that it is early enough into the new card season that a lot of decks possibilities are out there, right? The decks you see at the Pro Tour are not the honed lists that happen at the end of a competitive season. So there's a lot of points of inspiration, and what we'd love to see is for you guys to help encourage your players to be like, this is a great opportunity to play in a little bit more competitive an event that also still has plenty of room for your players to innovate and to experiment and to do that. We feel that the time frame of 3 weeks after release is enough time to give players an opportunity to start acquiring some of these cards. But also, I think it's important to emphasize to your players, right? You don't have to come in with a Pro Tour winning list to be able to compete, and to encourage them to innovate and to try and to do so with the collections they do have. And I think in these ways it can help to build a competitive environment that still allows for room for experimentation and for less than optimal perfect decks.
Well, and one of the things that actually this kind of leads into or encapsulates is the fact that when we look at like the cadence of our programs, these 3 programs, pre-release, launch weekend, and game day, what you're going to see is that you're building a collection with the first 2 events, right? So at your pre-release, you're getting a seal pool, right? At launch weekend, you're probably picking up some boosters, and maybe you're playing in a draft or 2. And hopefully, by accumulating some of those cards in those weeks, right, encouraging your players to come back for, hey, if you think that you might want some more cards for Standard, one way to do that and get a fun experience out of it is come play in my draft event on launch weekend, right?
Yeah.
So something like that might be a good way to kind of encourage players to obtain some of the cards. But yeah, looking at the Standard environment, the idea here is that what we want to do is we want the Standard environment to be accessible. We want the Standard environment to be healthy with a lot of different deck options. And there's a lot of variations on those decks, right? Just because you're playing a green-white humans deck doesn't mean it needs to contain all the rares and mythics that like a pro list had to be a competitive deck.
Yeah, definitely. We are really excited about the potential of game day. And as always, if you guys have thoughts after this live stream or at any point, we'd love to hear this conversation within here in the WPN Facebook group. You can always post any thoughts that you have. We love hearing your feedback, and I'll be collecting that and sharing it with the teams internally. Chris can tell you I've always been like, hey, retailers are thinking this or asking this.
Right.
He's answered questions for me regularly. So we want to make sure we're hearing your voices and hearing what's working and what can work better, because that's the way we can improve our programs. And Chris is working very hard to evolve and expand our offerings in all kinds of arenas, which I'm pretty excited about coming up. So the last event I wanted to talk a little bit about is FNM, and these 3 events kind of fit in one.
Right, they're all part of like sort of what we consider like our season celebration, right? The set celebration.
Pre-release, release, game day is a set celebration.
Yeah, they're all kind of they're all kind of have a look and feel that's all tied to the set. And FNM is too as well, but FNM is sort of the expression of your weekly community, right? So with FNM, right, what you're looking at is just your recurring play, right? These are your players that are coming in week over week, right? You have the ability as a store and the flexibility to go ahead and schedule any number of different formats for your community. You're always running it on Friday. Everybody knows it's Friday Night Magic, so when am I playing? I'm playing on Friday. So it's really a great opportunity for your store to sort of have its community express itself in the kinds of events you schedule. Obviously, things like drafts and standard events, are usually our most popular FNM formats, but a lot of other stores will run, other formats as they think are necessary. You can run up to 3 ranked FNM events and up to 3 casual FNM events on your Friday Night Magic. So, for example, if you have a standard event as sort of your highlight or marquee event, right, that can be a ranked standard event, and then you could run, for example, a commander event as a side event for other players that might be interested in doing that instead, or running booster draft every week, right, as your main event, and then running, a modern event or something like that as your side event for players that are interested in that.
Yeah, so I've seen stores, that have a very big player base run multiple events with kind of overlapping and kind of splitting up the space. And I've also seen stores, kind of find success where they have a core group of players that come in for every FNM, but they're able to bring in different groups by changing up the format, whether it's, draft for, every first and third week, and then standard for second and fourth. Finding the formats that excites your players. We want to give you as much flexibility as possible with FNM.
Yeah, and your players will get access to promo cards, which you are free to determine how you want to award those. A lot of stores will do things like, okay, I'm going to run a ranked event, so I want to have like the top couple players get a promo card, and they'll give out some of those that way, and then they'll do some other things like random rewards or what have you with the other ones, or they'll give out like a sort of a fellowship or sportsman type of awards, right, to other players, which is great. But the idea there is that, hey, the FNM week, or the FNM day is really your day and your community's day to really kind of express what you think is most valuable to you about Magic and run the kinds of events you want to run.
Definitely. I know when I was a player, I was not always the person who was winning all the tournaments, so I really appreciated the store I played at. They had a couple promos which they just gave out to random players. I mean, the top players obviously win promos, but it gave me a reason to keep playing after I totally went 0-3 to open the night, right? And so we do encourage you to use the promos in the best ways to encourage not only your competitive play, but to give access to all of your players.
Yeah. And Rob says that we often have Pro Tour streaming at a PC in the store. They're actually working on having a larger display set up to use for streaming and timers and things like that. It's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Coming back to encouraging checking out the Pro Tour before game day, we do encourage you to find ways to stream and to give your players access to be able to view that. I know that I think was it. Jordan, who was it that said that they streamed the Pro Tour, but sometimes people had a hard time understanding what was going on? That was that was Michael Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Peterson said that sometimes players have a hard time understanding the Pro Tour. Totally understand that. It is that is one of the challenges of Magic, right? Is like on the competitive level, it's sometimes hard to keep track of what's happening. And I think one thing that I found some stores have success with that in that regard is streaming the Pro Tour and letting that be a springboard for conversation, right? Because then players are like, wait, what's that going on over there?
Right.
Well, there's a Pro Tour for Magic, and this really is exciting for new players in that it gives you a point to springboard off of to start conversation. So for your enfranchised players, they get to watch and they get to see the pros they love and the cool decks that are emerging, and they get to talk about that. And for you and your staff, it's a great place to be like, Magic's really awesome. It's played on all scales and levels of competitiveness, and give them a little insight into that as well.
Right, there's also some great bits that you can kind of replay in your store after the Pro Tour is concluded that kind of talk about like the narrative of the set, or like hot cards and things like that. So those things you can kind of pick out if you have some time to kind of, while you're streaming or watching the Pro Tour, you can kind of just mark it somewhere and just know that you might want to come back to it and have that be like something that you show the players so that they have a better sense of sort of what what's going on or why would I care about this as a player in your store. So.
Yeah. I know one of the stores that I used to play at before I came here to Wizards, one thing I really liked was they would often replay the Pro Tour after it happened and play those little segments. And so whenever I inevitably showed up early for FNM, I could sit around and watch that and then start to have a conversation with some of the other players about what's happening there. I also wanted to share a question that I've gotten a couple times about FNM to jump back to that event, which is why is FNM only Friday? Wouldn't it be better if we had flexibility to have this kind of thing on all days? So why Friday?
Well, so one of the major reasons why Friday Night Magic is Fridays, first of all, the program's name is Friday Night Magic, so if you have it on a Tuesday, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Sure.
But to be a little less cheeky about it, one of the main reasons is because if we have everyone that is a Magic player understand that there is a night where people are playing Magic in all the local game shops around the world, right? It'll be much easier for them to be able to find your shop and go in and participate in something, right? If people are running Magic, 7 days a week, and every store is running something different every night, and the store near me might not be running something on the night that I want to play, and then the store 50 miles away is, right? Now I have to make some really interesting choices.
Right.
Whereas if every store is running Magic on Friday, right, it makes it pretty easy for me to make a decision as a player about attending Magic events on a Friday, right? It's, hey, I know there's going to be one near me. I just need to go to the store and event locator, look it up, or call up my local game shop and find out what that event is going to be. So that's really the main focus, right? I mean, we certainly had some challenges earlier when we were working toward this goal, and what we saw was when we actually synced everybody up and said, no, everybody needs to run Friday Night Magic on Friday. There are no exceptions to running Friday Night Magic. We found that the attendance in all of those locations, all those regions that we had that went up, right? Because it's that consistency, yeah. Right? It's the every week on Friday, I know my store is going to be running a Magic event, right? It's not, hey, this store's running it on Monday and this store's running it on Wednesday. So that's the main reason why Friday, right? It also really makes it easier for us to help you market it, right? It's easy for us to basically go, hey, go to your local store on Friday. There's going to be some fun Magic going on.
Yeah. And as Alex says here, he says, I tell new players to come in on Fridays just to watch or play casual games. It's that same thing, right? Fridays when Magic is happening. You've never played Magic before, you just want to check it out. Yeah. You know the day you can come in and take a look.
You have your critical mass of players now, right? You have a lot of players in your store at once. You might have some players that are experienced that would love to help out a new player, right? So it's more likely that you're going to have those things happen if everybody's sort of focused on the same night.
Awesome. We are coming towards the end of our time, but I did want to address something that Rob said here in the comments real quick before we sign off. Rob said, we also see mostly competitive players for game day. We had someone else comment earlier that they get basically already competitive players for game day. We try to open it up for more casuals with some pretty big random placement prizes, cool. Some box draws and other things. It means the coveted playmat is there for the competitive players, but there are things to draw everyone else as well. I like the game day to be for everyone who likes Magic. I don't want anyone to feel like they don't belong there.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important, right? Is the emphasis is on friendly, and the words friendly competition, right?
Definitely.
It's about creating a welcoming environment for everyone that wants to try out their new deck.
Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that I think oftentimes gets lost among the conversation among competitive players is Magic is fun even when you lose if you're playing, if the environment of the store is great and your players are great. I know, again, I'm a mediocre Magic player at best, and when I go to something like Game Day or even a GPT or anything like that, I have a lot of fun because the stores have created a great environment. And so thanks, Rob, for doing cool things that gives prizes out to your other players as well and lets them see the fun of competition without feeling like either it was a waste of time or unfun if they didn't get first place. And I think that cultivates a healthier environment for your store and a healthier community for your players. And it will encourage more growth of your competitive scene, which is only going to help you guys out.
Celebrating the successes of your newer players and of your players that are coming into your events to try something different and exciting, right? I think is really important, right? Finding ways to celebrate those with them. Not only the players that are going to run roughshod them for the whole event, right?
Right.
But you're talking about your players that come in with a really, really cool, strange deck, and they wind up winning a match, and it's like, wow, that's really cool that you won a match. Or, like you said, players that just show up, right, and are just having a great time and being really friendly and engaging, right? You can award them with things like sportsmanship awards and such.
Yeah, and we thank you guys for creating those kind of environments
Yep.
and spaces for people to play. That's what makes this game super fun.
Yeah.
That does wrap up our time here for this live stream. If you have any additional questions or thoughts on these events and anything else, as always, drop them here in the Facebook group, and we look forward to answering those questions as they come up. Thank you guys for watching. My name's Yichao. This is Chris Tulak.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. We'll check in with you later.